Sit back and throw one back with your pinky in the air and a middle finger to the world, and join me, the eclectic gentleman Stephen Watts, as we look back on this day in pro wrestling history. But before we do, put that drink down, like, share, and subscribe, and without further ado, let's get our wrestling history on. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, it is November 21st, and we're going to start off as we always do on a positive note. That's right, these are your pro wrestling birthdays. 1942, one half of the Wild Samoans, Afa. 1959, former WCW enhancement talent, Jerry Flynn. 1964, it's the franchise, Shane Douglas. And last but not least, 1983, it's time for a little twin magic, Nikki and Brie Bella. Of course, on the flip side of that coin, your pro wrestling deaths for November 21st. 2013, Mad Dog Vachon. Alright, enough of the sad stuff. It's time to get to the meat and potatoes. That's right, these are your pro wrestling history highlights for November 21st. A short trip in the Wayback Machine today as we start in 1977. A live event in Memphis, Tennessee at the Mid-South Coliseum saw Jerry Lawler defend the Southern Heavyweight Championship against Mr. Wrestling, who had been undefeated until that point in the territory. Lawler also teamed with Big Red to win the Southern Tag Team Championships from the Samoans. The show drew almost 6,000 fans, with an undercard of David Schultz defeating Ken Dillinger, Sonny King defeating Terry Gordy, Mike Stark defeating Bill Dundee, and Phil Hickerson and Dennis Condrey defeating Jimmy Golden and Norville Austin. That next year in 1978, Tony Guerrera and Larry Zbyszko defeat the Yukon Lumberjacks for the Worldwide Wrestling Federation World Tag Team titles in Allentown, Pennsylvania. A 2-year jump to 1980, New Japan Pro Wrestling has day one of their first ever MSG Tag League. A 9-year leap this time to 1989, the WWF does a marathon taping of Wrestling Challenge in Fort Wayne, Indiana, with over 20 matches taped for the shows. 6 years later in 1995, the WWF does a marathon taping once again for Superstars of Wrestling and Monday Night Raw in Salisbury, Maryland. The show is notable for having a young Matt Hardy going one-on-one against Owen Hart for Superstars and then wrestling his brother Jeff Hardy for Raw. And last but not least, 1999, WCW Mayhem, a new pay-per-view replacing World War III, was held in Toronto, Ontario, Canada at the Air Canada Centre. With a main event in a 32-person tournament final, Bret Hart defeated Chris Benoit to win the WCW World Heavyweight title with the sharpshooter. Early in the match, Dean Malenko attacked Benoit, but was run off by Hart. Later in the match, the Outsiders interfered, but were run off by Bill Goldberg. This marked Hart's first WCW World title reign, 2 years after the infamous Montreal Screwjob cost him the WWF title. Those were your short but sweet pro wrestling history highlights for November 21st. I'm the eclectic gentleman Stephen Watts, and we'll see you tomorrow.